So David Yoon's from Toronto. He's with HCS Technology Group. He's a pardon me. So his presentation is on how to build your macOS VM for free. He's a subject matter expert for large enterprise, like I was saying, with HCS. He says, I quote, "I get paid to tear things down, fight with incumbents," we all know that, "and build better workspace for Apple fans." David's passionate about growing the Mac-brained YYZ, the meetup group for the Greater Toronto area. And David's favorite Apple product is the first-gen iPhone. It got him started on his journey. Did you want to say anything about that, David? Or
yeah, sure. We didn't have first-gen iPhone in Canada, so I had to smuggle it in from US.
Yeah.
And I ended up racking up, I think, about $20,000 data phone bill. I was a student at that time.
Oh man.
And it took me like two hours with Fido, which was a carrier at the time, to get that credited or waived.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting story, which, iPhone really kind of got me started on this Apple journey.
Yeah.
And ever since then, haven't looked back. Also, now that we have learned how to present properly with Armin's presentation, you're going to see me make all the right mistakes.
Okay. Take it away, Dave. Thanks.
All right. So let me go ahead and share the presentation. Just let me know if you guys see it.
Yep, it's coming through.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for joining this early afternoon. The topic I'm going to cover today is how to create never run virtual machine snapshot with VMware Fusion Player. I know the title was a little bit clickbait-ish, but the real title is really just to create the snapshot, which is at the never run state. You can do that with both Fusion Player and Fusion Pro. I'm going to present as quickly as I can so that we have lots of time for questions at the end. Don't worry, link to material covered in this presentation will be available to you at the end of this talk. Again, my name is David Yoon. I'm one of the professional services engineers at HCS Technology Group. I'm currently working also at one of Canada's major banks as an infrastructure consultant. One of my responsibilities is to help maintain their infrastructure required to manage all Apple devices as well as other mobile devices. Also, I also help organize Mac admins community in Greater Toronto area in Canada. I am very active in some of the Mac admins channel in Slack, but you could easily find me in #Toronto channel if you have any questions or concern. I'd like to say a couple things about HCS Technology Group, which I'm part of. We're trainers and engineers that mainly focus on delivering certified Apple training, such as macOS Support Essentials, Jamf 200 and 300. As well, we deliver professional services on behalf of Apple and Jamf. Some of our guys are also MSP, and we are also part of Apple Consultant Network. So if your organization is in need of help with managing Apple devices, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. Okay, now to the main part of the presentation. Needless to say, remote work as a result of COVID-19 has presented some interesting IT challenges, mainly in the area of end-user computing. So as part of my talk, I want to touch on three major primary use cases that I can think of for utilizing virtual machines. So one is supporting user remotely. As you know, screen share, sometimes it's difficult, especially when you're interacting with the user. So you could use a virtual machine to kind of imagine what the users are seeing, and also go through the process of instructing the user how to resolve the issue, right? So if you have something that where, things like, you need to uninstall, you would go through that motion in the virtual machine and then instruct the user as you're doing it yourself without, affecting your daily driver, right? Another one is if you're in engineering, you need to reproduce the issue when working with the vendor, right? So you can easily do that with the virtual machine, again, without compromising your daily driver. Finally, the one that I do, I use a virtual machine quite a bit for, which is development work, right? So it's specifically in the area of developing automated devices enrollment workflow, right? So, we call it zero touch enrollment. This is when you enroll a device either manually or out of the box. Whether testing automated device enrollment workflow, testing app stability, or simply testing your automation scripts, it has always been our challenge to perform these tasks without, again, compromising our daily drivers. And yet being able to repeatedly create and destroy our tests to confirm the correctness of our works is a key to success in managing Apple devices. Hence, leveraging the ephemeral nature of virtual machine becomes very useful. For training purposes, this presentation describes step-by-step process in creating a macOS Big Sur virtual machine using VMware Fusion Player, which is a free version. So please obtain the licensed copy of VMware Fusion Pro if you intend to use it, use this instruction outside of your personal use. Okay, let's get started. The requirement is you need a serial number of a Mac that is enrolled in Apple Business Manager, which is assigned to an MDM. Obviously, you need an MDM solution which supports automated device enrollment. A Mac with 16 gig of RAM, minimum of 100 gig of free hard drive space. I use macOS Big Sur 11.3.1 for this guide. So we can break the steps into 5 different sections. First, you need to download the full installer. It's fairly straightforward. Second, you need to download and install the Fusion Player. If you have a Fusion Pro, that's also great. And then third, install macOS Big Sur virtual machine. After you create the virtual machine, you're going to install macOS, and then at that point, we will learn how to create never run snapshot. Never run, never boot it. It's basically a snapshot before the computer is turned on. The final step would be to test your, whatever that you're trying to test with the snapshot by playing the virtual machine. So first, downloading the virtual full installer is fairly straightforward. So if you are running macOS Big Sur 11 and up, you can run the software update command with 2 flags, fetch full installer, full installer version. I've tested, I created this guide with 11.3.1, but you can do so with 11.4. If you're running macOS Catalina, you could also use install macOS Python script, which is available in GitHub. All right. So once you have the full installer downloaded, it downloads to the applications folder. What you would do is you will need to download and install Fusion Player. So the link to get the Fusion Player is provided here. You also need a VMware account. All you need is your personal email address. You create the VMware account. If you're working with an organization that is a customer of VMware, you will be able to create a VMware account by providing the customer number. But for this guide, you could just create one with your email address. Once you create VMware account, you log into the portal, and then you are going to download both installer as well as the the license key that is required for activation. Even though it's a free version, you still need to get the license key to activate the app. So now that you have the full installer and Fusion Player installed, we're going to create the virtual machine. So simply, launching the Fusion Player app in the applications folder, what we're going to do is we're going to create our first virtual machine. In the past, you would have had to go through some serious series of additional steps to create the virtual disk, the virtual image, the disk image, sorry. Typically, we would leverage something like Rich Troughton's script to convert the installer to the disk image, right? DMG as well as ISO disk image, and then you would utilize that with the VMware Fusion. But with the latest version, you actually don't need to do that. You could just drag and drop the installer right into the Fusion install window, and then the Fusion will take care of the rest. Interestingly enough, I actually just found out this method this past weekend, and I had to modify the guide all over again because I had the old method, and someone pointed out, yeah, you could just drag and drop. So, all right. So when you go through the creating the virtual machine, you go through the steps here. You can go ahead and click Customize Settings in step 2, and then you can name the virtual machine appropriately. Usually, it would pre-populate and create the virtual machine as macOS 11.0. So I personally like to change it to the specific version that I download the installer. And then once you click Save, the Fusion Player will mount the disk image. It takes about a minute or so, and then you're off to a good start. Before you fire up the virtual machine, what you want to do is you want to make a couple of tweaks in the settings. So click the settings icon. You will be seeing the settings window. At this time, oh, what happened here? So at this time, okay, so this is one of those weird situations where my images are missing. Let's go focus on this setting. So here, what we're going to do is we are going to making 2 changes. One is the processor memory, right? So you click on processor memory and increase the size to 8 GB minimum. I would recommend increasing that. If you do not do it and then later you play the virtual machine, you may see some weirdness when you during the setup process. So some instances where I've seen, you landed the desktop and you have a pre-staged enrollment package or bootstrap package that actually doesn't get downloaded for some reason. By increasing the virtual memory to 8 GB of RAM actually does make the virtual machine run smooth. If your computer is able to handle, you could also increase the processor to quad core as well from dual core. Another one that you want to do is you want to go to the network settings and disable the network adapter. That's very important because, as we know, with every Apple devices, upon setup, upon turning on the device for the very first time, the device will phone home, right? And it'll try to, verify the chain of custody and trying to connect with an MDM, so on and so forth. So you want to prevent that from happening, right? When the virtual machine reboots after the macOS is installed. So you want to disable that. So 2 things: change the memory, disable the network adapter. Now, now that you have made those settings changes, you're going to launch the player. And as you launch the player, I'm not sure why I have this weirdness where this presentation is blank. So could you give me a little, could we pause for a little bit?
Sure, yeah.
All right. So I do apologize. I don't know what happened to my deck. So yeah, again, going back to the settings where you need to make the modification, right? So here is what you need to do. Change the memory to minimum of 8 GB of RAM, change the processor to quad core if you can, and disable the network, right? So when you get to play and launch the virtual machine for the first time, you get this little windows that says, hey, you want to click OK when sidechain mitigation enable prompts appear. So you basically say OK. And then your virtual machine will boot to recovery. At that time, it will actually, you're going to basically go ahead and install the macOS, right? So when you install the macOS, you just go through a couple of clicks here, and then eventually you will reboot to recovery. Once you will boot to the setup. Sorry. At the select the region window, what you want to do, this is very important, which is to shut down the virtual machine, right? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the Fusion menu, virtual machine menu, and then drop down to shut down, right? Because what we want to do is we want to create the never run snapshot. Before we create the never run snapshot, what we want to do is we want to re-enable the network adapter, right? Because we want next time around, you want your macOS to reach out to Apple to verify again chain of custody, and then your Mac will be connected to your MDM. Okay, and another thing that you want to do here at this point is before you make the create the snapshot, you are going to go to again virtual machine list window, right click your virtual machine, which will show your contextual menu. If you hold down the option key, you will get an additional contextual menu. The one that you're looking for is open config file in editor, right? So when the editor launches, you're going to see all the settings required for your virtual machines. You're going to scroll to the bottom of the list, and you're going to inject two items, right? One is hardware model, and the other one is a serial number. So if you have a serial number handy and it's enrolled to Apple Business Manager and it's pointed to your MDM, that's a serial number that you're going to use. You could also simply just use the serial number of the device that you're using. And as per hardware model, you could just use the one that's provided here, or if you want, you could also use your own hardware model as well by running the command in your terminal. sysctl hw.model will give you that information. So you basically substitute that information in the settings here. In the past, you may have required things like board ID, but you don't need that anymore. Make sure to save the edit and quit. So Command S for save, Command Q for quit. Once you quit out of the editor, you are going to go back to the list, and this time, right click, we're going to drop down to snapshots. In the snapshot window, you don't have a snapshot. You're only seeing current state, which you're going to now take the snapshot. So you right click and take the snapshot. And at that point, you're going to name your snapshot, whether never run, never boot, or beginning, what have you. At that point, snapshot is created. So you have a snapshot and you also have a current state, which is identical, right? So this is the part where you are going to, when you launch your virtual machine, it will start from the current state and then it'll play and then it'll go through a setup. But if you need to revert back to the snapshot, you always have that original never run state snapshot. All right, so after that, all you have left here is to test out your automated device enrollment with your virtual machine, right? So you double click the virtual machine, and if your device is enrolled in Apple Business Manager, you will eventually see the remote management screen. Okay. And let's say you've gone through all the tests and you want to revert back to the snapshot, you can do so, right? First, you want to shut down your snapshot or suspend it, right? And then right-click your virtual machine. Again, drop down to snapshot. We'll give you a snapshot window. When you right-click your never run snapshot, you have to be, please keep in mind that you will see two contextual menus. That's important. One is to restore the snapshot, and right below it is to delete the snapshot. Sometimes you may accidentally delete snapshot, so just be mindful of that. And if you do, you'll have to repeat this process all over again. It'll ask you if you want to save your current state. I personally don't save, right? Because I'm always, going back to the never run snapshot to rerun and retest the work that I've done in the MDM. But if you want to, you can save, and it'll create a fork of the snapshot. Now, if you want to use different serial number, right, all you have to do is restore the snapshot and then go back to the editor and then edit to a different serial number. So yeah, basically that's it. Again, I do apologize for the little hiccup there. Hopefully, I hope everybody got all the contents okay with the website. Again, the presentation is really intended so that we can quickly cover the steps and why, cover why I do, why you need to do certain steps, right? But the actual instruction is actually in our HCS website. So let me quickly just touch upon why I do it this way, because I think everybody uses virtual machine slightly different. Even the way you set up the virtual machine, you don't have to follow this method, right? I personally use this method because, as a consultant, if you're working with different customers, you are working with different devices, right? With different serial number that's enrolled to different Apple Business Manager, which is assigned to different MDM. So if you have their serial number and you want to test their enrollment workflow, all you need is the serial number to just plug it in and just play, right? And then you go back and then you repeat that process. So that is why I do not necessarily save the snapshot, right? If you're also working with, working with the organization that actually has multiple MDM tenants, right? Because say you have, development, QA, and production, right? You do all your development work in the development tenant, right? Configure all your enrollment, all your profiles, and all of the things required for management, and you want to test that, right? So you need either you would have a device and you'd have to change the assignment in the Apple Business Manager. In my case, I just have a dedicated serial number assigned to Dev MDM, QA MDM, and Production MDM, and all I need to do is just swap that serial number and play the virtual machine. that way, right? So every time I basically transfer my work from dev to QA to production, I would have to test and verify that everything that I copied over is correct, right? And so this is where the virtual machine comes in really handy, because plug in the serial number, play it, okay, everything looks good, revert back to Snapshot, different serial number, play it, verify, and then so on and so forth. So yeah, that's it.
Okay. Thanks, David. We have many questions.
Okay.
So maybe we'll go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, sure. Before I start looking at the question, again, this is just how I do things, right? And I do like to ask everyone how you utilize your virtual machine and how you also set it up as well. So should we just go down the list?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanna take them, go ahead. We've got a couple of questions for the M1s, so we could probably.
Yeah. So the first question, I take it require an Intel Mac to virtual macOS. M1s need not apply. Yeah. So I don't think we have Fusion Player or Fusion Pro for M1s, right? So this is for Intel Mac only. Yeah.
I'm happy to read them out to you if you like to.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So then Dave R from Slack asks, does the drag and drop install work with Catalina also?
Yes. So I wanted to verify, if this drag and drop method actually works for Catalina on a Catalina machine. So I verified that as well. Now I do have a version where you would leverage Rich Troughton's script. So if somebody needs that, I do have that material available, right? Which is basically same thing. You install, you download the installer and you run Rich's script. You do need a modified version of his script. I have a fork version of it in my GitHub where you need to modify the code so that macOS Big Sur 11.3 and on would work. So I do have that one, but from my testing, you're going to be able to run the Catalina virtual machine from both Catalina and Big Sur device.
Gotcha. Cool. Thank you. Well, that's an interesting question. Are there any differences with Apple Silicon hosts?
Well, right now there's only Intel, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, for now, I don't think we have anything for M1 Max. I really wish that they would come up with that soon.
Yeah. A lot of places seem to be a little bit behind on that. Okay, Everett Allen asks, David, have you used this to teach something like MDM enrollment, where you can provide a VM for each student so they can complete exercises? If so, how would you get the settings and VM to the clients?
That's a great question. So now that we have this instruction, you can pretty much send that instruction and go, hey, get this set up on your virtual machine, and then you could probably run a demo off of your virtual machine as your students also have the virtual machine set up, because if it's for education purposes, personal use, you don't need to purchase the VMware Fusion Pro. I haven't done that, but that's a really great idea, actually.
Thanks, Everett. So I'm probably going to butcher this. Mateen Sasaluxanon asks, can this process be utilized for settings or for setting up never run for macOS 10.15 Catalina and macOS 10.14 Mojave images?
I haven't tested the Mojave image, but I know Catalina image is good. But again, with the old method, you can do Mojave, Catalina, and Big Sur. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that you can create never run snapshot with the drag and drop method for Mojave as well.
Cool.
Yeah, but if somebody want to verify that and just shoot me a message, that'd be great too.
Thanks. And then we've got Selfstro and Min kind of ask a similar question about serial numbers. Does the serial number have to match the hardware model? It'd be nice to steal the serial from an old retired Mac, but install a current OS.
Yes, that's how I do it. I steal from, we have a device serial that's either gone missing or retired, right?
Mhm.
But it is enrolled in Apple Business Manager. So you can use that serial number to create, Big Sur, Snapshot, Catalina, or Mojave. Yeah, so I basically work with like list of serial numbers, right? And I know, it belongs to this particular MDM tenant, right? And so if I need it, I just pull it out, copy, paste it into the editor, and then just play it. That's how I do it. And the hardware model, it doesn't have to be associated to that serial number. You could basically use any hardware model by running that command and then plug that in.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, is that kind of why you turn off a network adapter? Like, or if you're like, can you run into problems with the serial number, especially using like Apple enrollment or auto enrollment?
So what do you mean? Like if the serial number is associated to the Apple Business Manager and that device is, assigned to an MDM and you run the virtual machine, then it'll go through the enrollment process, right?
Right. And you won't run into conflicts that there's two serial numbers with the same,
in
the same instance.
The question really is then around the MDM, right? Is MDM able to handle, serial number that's identical, right? For Jamf, you don't have a problem. Sometimes you get into this weird random glitches. So what I personally do whenever I run these tests is that I just delete the device record from the MDM. So, I would have a daily driver, right, which is all enrolled in the MDM. And then when you start to run these, tests, you're going to see additional device records pop up because it's enrolled, right, as a unique device. Because with Jamf and, I think Workspace ONE as well, it doesn't, yes, it enrolls with the serial number, but there's also UUID, unique identifier. So it works off of that as well, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so for Workspace ONE, sometimes you get into weird glitch because the enrollment process is a little different, right? So generally you want to delete the device record that are stale, right? Then you wouldn't have a problem. Yeah, I've done device enrollment with the same serial number with Mojave virtual machine, Catalina virtual machine, Big Sur virtual machine, Appleseed beta virtual machine, all at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's generally for most part it's okay.
Okay.
But again, got to delete those stale records.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're almost out of time here, but Gyro J has a comment. I know you were talking about wanting to hear how other people do things. He says, I've done Mojave and Catalina and Big Sur. We use serial numbers from our dead MacBook Airs for VM and DEP MDM testing. So
yeah, that's exactly how I do it as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah, the model identifier, M. Scott Blake says, in my experience, the model identifier is what limits the install. So cool. Thanks, guys. Anything else, David?
That's it. Thanks.
Okay. Remember to check out MacBrained YYZ. And they've got, I think, all sorts of resources there, all sorts of guides and that YYZ. Sorry, Anthony. And that'll be basically us going into break. We're going to go for about 25 minutes. So if y'all can come back at, I think that's 10:40. Yeah. You can all come back at 10:40 for Christina Gremian and Tracy Joyce from Jamf. That'd be great. The Kumo space is in the Slack chat. So if you guys want to go in there and socialize, that's an option too. We'll see you back at 10:40. Thanks very much for your time. Thanks, David.